What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some route running from Christian Kirk from this 2022 and 2023 season. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could give you some value. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with us this off season, we are going to be traveling out to 13 more states across the country for 2-day long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Phoenix, then Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, the DMV, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles, California. So if you guys are local to one of those cities and would like to train with us this year, check out that very first link in the description below where you can get all the info and how to sign up. Let's get started with this video. So now, first things first here, we're looking at this great out route here from Christian Kirk. Now, he's going to be using something called a rocker step. This is a route he ran against the Chargers this past weekend. So let's play at full speed and then we'll break it down. So he's coming off the route. Great job selling the route. Great job with that inside fake on a rocker step versus an outside leverage DB. So obviously when he's running this out route, he's got a DB who's lined up outside leverage and off man coverage. So anytime that we see a DB who's lined up in outside shade, whether it's press, whether it's off man, whether it's zone, what do we know about that specific coverage? We know that he is trying to take away any type of outside route. So the route that Christian Kirk has called is an out route. DB lined up outside shade, that's kind of an awkward route at times if I don't know how to run this route specifically, because he is trying to take away that route, take away the fade, take away the out, take away the corner. Now, when a DB is also outside shade, he probably has safety help to the inside. He's trying to funnel everything to that safety help. So as a wide receiver, a lot of times what people will do is that they see this outside leverage coverage and they just try to go run around it. They think, oh, I have an outside breaking route like an out, like a corner. I got to make sure that I get to the outside of the DB. That's not necessarily always the case because Christian Kirk is such a great route runner. He's so technical because he has a high football IQ. He knows how to run routes and he knows how to attack a specific DB and what his responsibilities are. So when we had this guy outside leverage, if we tried to run around him, he would just weave and keep his leverage, force everything to the inside. Don't give up the outside. So then if you were to break on that out route, you'd have maybe 2 yards of space to run to that sideline, which is not good for a quarterback, and the quarterback will not throw that ball because it will be a pick six. So we have to attack with my route the inside shoulder so I can get some separation, but also so I can get some speed. So Christian Kirk decides to use a move called a rocker step at the top of the break. So a rocker step is a 2-step cut. Normally on an out route, quarterback's over here, you would just cut off of your inside foot, right? You'd speed cut it. You put your foot in the ground, you break on the out route. But a rocker step is where you would try to sell a post or an inside breaking route to get that DB off his platform. So you see with this stem, he's attacking the inside shoulder because the goal is to get that DB's hips to flip, but also give the quarterback space. Now this is where the move comes into play. So he steps to the side that he is breaking first. That's super important about this rocker step. You step where you are breaking first. And the first part of this move is a quick and it is a powerful step. It's a hard step. You're still cutting, but it's got to make sure that it stays inside your frame because the second step of this movement is what sells. So he does that outside foot first and he's pushing off the outside foot to sell this inside fake. That's the second part of the cut. So it is going to be a 1-2 to the inside. Now, when we make that inside cut, a DB who is in off man coverage, where are his eyes supposed to be? On the wide receiver's hips. So I need to make sure when I make that inside cut, my upper body is loose, my hips, my shoulders are selling this thing to get him to bite. And look at this. We have plenty of space for that quarterback to lead me to the sideline. If we try to run this route and just try to run to the outside right now, we have no space and the timing is off. Great job by Christian Kirk showcasing the high football IQ, a great move at the top of the route, and being able to get separation. That's why he was definitely worth that $73 million contract. Let's play this thing again, full speed, and then we'll get to another route from Christian Kirk that showcases his extremely high football IQ. So this is going to be kind of like a deep crossing route. You could consider it a dig. You could consider it a deep bender, but same thing. He has something called outside leverage coverage. So let's play this full speed. Let's watch what he does here. He does a great emphasis of a pressure step on this movement. So this is kind of like a deep crossing route touchdown, right? So when we are coming off this ball, as you can see here, he's got a DB who's outside leverage. Now, this looks more like zone coverage, not so much outside leverage, off man coverage, because this DB's eyes are to the inside and he's kind of turned in this back pedal stance. So what did we know about outside leverage coverage? We knew that he has help to the inside. So if we're running a route like a bender, like a deep cross, like a deep post. All of those routes will go right into the safety help of the DB. So that's exactly what this DB wants. He's taught, do not give up the outside, force everything inside. Now, there was no safety on this play because I think the Jaguars had a great play dialed up that maybe pulled the safety down and left Christian Kirk wide open. But when I'm running my route, I still have to structure it as if there was a safety right there. I want to give my quarterback time. I want to give the play time, but I also want to get separation. So he does something called a pressure step. So instead of him just taking off and running to the inside, he does this hard move right here to the inside. And it doesn't need to be an over-exaggerated move, but it's this cut that sells like he is running an outside breaking route. So remember, and when we had an outside route against outside leverage, what did we want to do? We wanted to attack his inside shoulder to flip him so I could slip back underneath. But if I have an inside breaking route versus outside leverage, remember, his leverage is outside. If I try to run around him, he's just going to widen. So if I have to run a route away from him, I want him to widen. So this pressure step threatens that leverage of the DB. That threatens something called his blind spot or his near hip. And that is a DB's biggest nightmare when he's in outside leverage, getting beat to the outside. So that pressure step inside and those like 3 steps that he takes to the outside attacking him is what's going to widen the DB here and create a bigger gap of space when we are running this crossing route over the middle of the field. But also, we're not running right into his safety help and alerting the safety that I'm crossing the field. That is a very, very high football IQ level route running right there, fellas. That's why Christian Kirk is so dangerous. A lot of people hate on the guy. They didn't think he was worth the money. But when you watch him run routes, it is very, very calculated. Reminds me a lot, and I'm not saying he's this caliber of a player yet, but reminds me a lot of how Cooper Kupp runs routes. When you watch that guy run routes, he is very, very calculated. He's not the best athlete on the field either, but he's puts up huge numbers. He gets the ball. Probably scores a touchdown every single damn game because he's so calculated with his routes. Receivers need to know the technique, obviously. And if you're playing at the next level in the NFL, you're probably a freak athlete, right? You have insane cuts. You're very strong. You have great stability in your lower half. But you got to know how to run routes when you got DBs who are just as good of athletes as you, especially if you're on the undersized side of things, or maybe you're not the fastest guy on the field like Cooper Kupp. So that's honestly what it reminds me of, and that's why I think he was definitely worth that $75 million contract. So let's play this again, and then we'll look at another route for Christian Kirk from that wild card game as well. It's a great job right there. So now, he's going to be out of the slot. He is going to be running a corner route. Now, this play concept is, it's kind of like a smash concept, if you will. So if any of you are familiar with like a smash concept, what that is where you have like maybe a slot wide receiver running a corner. You have an outside wide receiver running like a hook. Maybe he's running a whip. Maybe he's running a snag. The goal is to pull this corner down so we have a free corner route over the top for Trevor Lawrence to hit. Now, maybe not the greatest move in the world from Christian Kirk, but I want to talk about the catch. Because this is I believe this is the one that put them within 3 points, and then they went for 2. So let's play this thing full speed. Great job by Kirk working this rocker step move atop again to hold that DB, but I love the catch on this play. So when he attacks him, again, DB who's off, kind of pedaling into the end zone. Number one, I feel like a DB shouldn't necessarily backpedal into the end zone because that makes it very easy for a wide receiver to do this kind of move. But let's watch the move that he chooses here. Because what was that move that he chose on the out route? He did something called a rocker step, right? And again, this is why he reminds me a ton of Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp does this exact same thing. But on a regular rocker step, normally what you would do is you would do 1, then 2. It's a 2-step break. So he would break on this case with his right foot, then his left foot, and then break to the corner. Now, maybe he's done that before. Or maybe in this game, he's done a rocker step on a post. All great wide receivers can pair their routes and pair their releases and their moves at the top of the route together. They make things look the same. You look at guys like Davante Adams. When Davante Adams has got press, he does that little hezzy skip and go, or he does that little hezzy crossover and he runs a slant. And it's not that complicated, fellas. And he does it all the time, but it's unpredictable. So we can do that same type of thing at the top of the route. So maybe Christian Kirk did like a rocker step post. He's definitely done a rocker step out. So watch what he does here. Instead of a 2-step, he goes 1, break with the outside foot, 2, 3. So he makes it look like he's doing that rocker step post, but actually breaking this thing out on a corner and being able to create just a fraction of space of separation. But when you got a talented quarterback, and all 32 quarterbacks in the NFL are talented, they can put that ball right on the money. That's an easy throw for them. So that's a great job pairing that route move, pairing that top of the route move together with something that he's used prior in the game, prior in the season, and that he has in his tool belt of moves. Now, like I said, I was very impressed with the catch here because big time situation, DB right on your hip. What so many wide receivers will do is they will show their hands super early, right? So especially like when they're running in traffic, like they'll run over the middle, they'll have a linebacker, a safety here, a linebacker here. They will extend their hands out to the ball. Now listen, we were all probably taught that from the time that we were 8 years old. Go to the ball, go to the ball. But when you got a DB who's right on your hip, he's not necessarily tracking the ball always. Like he's not looking at the ball. Sometimes he is playing us and he is playing my hands. So when that ball is thrown, I want to try to be as late as possible with my hands to not give the DB a chance to react. And that's exactly what Kirk does. And everybody always says like, oh, don't catch with your body. But you see so many NFL wide receivers catching with their body. I'm not saying to do that because I'm always a tradition, hey, catch with your hands, catch with your hands. But they do that because, number one, the quarterbacks put a lot of heat on the ball. But number two, to ensure that they put that ball away. So many guys have those early hands. They catch it, and it takes a while for them to tuck the ball away. DB's got an easy PBU opportunity. Let's be late with those hands anytime that I am in traffic, anytime that I got a defender on my hip, and that is how you properly finish a play. So great job by Kirk using that triple rocker step move, left, right, left. A regular rocker step, you step in the direction that you're going first, and it's 2 cuts. A triple rocker step, you step opposite of where you're going first, and it is 3 cuts, and a great job finishing the play here. Let's watch this full speed. Great job by Kirk, 1, 2, 3, getting that guy to bite to the inside and getting that fraction of separation to win on this route. All right, so now next route I want to break down here from Kirk is going to be a great example of an explosive press release to get this DB to jump outside of his frame or off of his platform. So I call this release a wide step release, and you see how he's out of this stance switch. So let's play this full speed, and then we'll break it down. So he does this great wide step release, takes the outside release on an out route, and obviously makes this DB stumble. Quarterback missed the throw a little bit over the top here, but let's break this throw down, or break this route down, I should say. So what a wide step release is this is a release that you see so many NFL wide receivers do. You see guys like Stephon Diggs do this release. I've seen Devontae Adams do this release before, mainly Diggs, though. He's a great guy to watch. So what a wide step is we are trying to essentially step with my back foot wide, trying to get this DB to bite so I could take the outside release in this case. If you were to have your inside foot up like this receiver at the top, you would do a wide step release with your back foot. So whatever foot is back, that is the wide step. So if your inside foot's up, it's for an inside release. If your outside foot's up, it's for an outside release. So wide step release. You see, anytime that I'm facing a patient DB, and every single DB in the NFL is patient. It's so funny to me, people who talk crap on DBs in the NFL, like, oh, he sucks, he's horrible. It's like, I would love to see anybody at the high school level or even the lower college levels, even just college in general, run a route against an NFL DB, they wouldn't be able to get off the line. So these guys are all patient. These guys are all disciplined. They're all extremely talented. So when he does this move, I want you to see how he attacks vertically. You see how his hips and his shoulders are committed, and he is stepping past that line of scrimmage. That is how we get a DB to bite, and that is how we can get a DB to open up his hips to open me up for a free outside release. And again, like I said, it all comes down to technique and knowing when to use these types of moves and releases. So what a lot of wide receivers do, especially when they're off the ball, they do all this dancing laterally. Fellas, when there's cushion between you and the DB, you have to attack that cushion. You have to close that cushion. And that's what we need to do with this release. So when he goes with this release, you see how he steps vertical. Even if you're doing some kind of like maybe crossover release where it's a 1-2, you're doing like a release where you're hesitating at him, you gotta attack him and threaten him, either crossing his face or threaten him vertically. If you don't do that and you don't commit with your hips and shoulders, you don't actually step there, he is not gonna move and he is just gonna sit patient. So that's a great example of that from Kirk. Now, after I get him to move, number one goal, so many guys on their routes like this, especially outside breaking routes like a corner, out route, fade route, they don't do something called getting skinny. So when Kirk comes off of this break here, he makes this move, threatens the DB. He doesn't just try to run away from him and run away from contact, especially not being the biggest guy going up against maybe a nickel defender. Some smaller guys, especially at the high school youth level, will have to go up against physical linebackers. You got to make sure that you're not afraid of that contact. We need to get skinny on my route. Same reason on that very first out route, to give the QB space. So you see, after he makes this move, he goes hip to hip with this DB. So that could put him in a position to where he can restack over the top. And when we can restack over the top, that's when I could give that hard fake to the inside, get that DB to stumble. Maybe if this DB plays it well and he's right on my hip, I could lean into him with my body and get away with a little bit of a push off there. You don't have to extend to push off. You could lean into him with your upper half, make a hard cut, and get some space. But we need to get skinny so I don't, number one, I don't run into this other receiver. Number two, so I don't just run straight to the sideline, and that screws up my quarterback's timing and the spacing he has to make a throw. So textbook example here from Christian Kirk. Throw was a little bit high, I feel. Definitely got to be a completion. He's open. You could consider this an out route, a corner route, or a sail route. It would apply the exact same way for all three of those. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you'd like to come out and train with us in 13 different states this off-season, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd absolutely love to have you out to one of our off-season camps. I'll see you guys next time.